Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent Training. Welcome to our live Friday broadcast. We have this class each Friday at 12 o'clock Seattle time, and I take your questions regarding American English pronunciation, words you might find difficult to pronounce. We talk about topics for American accent training, and I share free resources that you can find here on my YouTube channel, Speech Modification Seattle, and also on my website, speechmodification.com. So thank you to everyone who has been commenting, asking questions, and participating in our YouTube community page. We have daily quizzes there with little bits of information to help you through your day. Be paying attention to some of the details you might need for improving your American English. And for those of you who are new to class, welcome. You can write your questions at any time in the chat, and I will be reading those, answering them, giving you information. If we have time today, the topic I want to talk about is the vowel schwa. It's the vowel that sounds like and it's the most frequently used word sound in American English, not the most frequently used word. Although the most frequently used word, which is the word the, also has that vowel schwa in it. So we'll look at how that vowel sounds, how it can be spelled, common words it's in, and some of the pitfalls you may have in mispronouncing that sound. It's pretty tricky because it can be spelled many, many different ways. And of course, it's being the most used sound in the language. If you're pronouncing it correctly, that can really have a big impact and improvement for your pronunciation. So I see there were some questions. We even had some before class today, so welcome. And thank you for waiting for Friday. I know Sid Hunt was hoping that we could have some weekend classes, and that's something I'm considering. Now we have many of us staying at home, working from home. There's a lot of people who are looking for things to be doing, ways to be working on self-improvement. And I see a lot of people participating in the content that I'm putting out there, and I welcome that. I think that it's really great during challenging times to look for what you can do that's good, ways you can reach out and help. I've always felt that. I've always believed that, even before what's going on currently in the world, that reaching out and sharing knowledge, sharing communication is just truly important. Without good communication, we all suffer. And so that's why I do these free classes. I'd like to be able to, I hope, help people who are looking for help. And many of you are working so hard to make improvements, to find good information. And so I love sharing that with you. And I really love your comments and questions because it helps me know what to talk about in class. It helps me know what videos to make, and it really improves everything that I do for you as well. So that was a little bit of a sidetrack, but what the point was that I may be doing some additional free live classes, sometimes possibly on the weekend. I'm also exploring doing some of my group classes that I typically do here in the Seattle and Bellevue area as online courses, which would be great because then some of you can participate who have been following the channel and using the resources from not this area. Of course, I do have subscription video classes. So on my website on speech modification, I have some online courses. Those are courses where you watch videos, you go through lessons, you work on your own. But what I'm considering now is taking my group classes that are interactive and live and opening them up to more people and having them as online courses. So if I get enough interest in that, I probably will be starting that sometime in April or May. Keep an eye out on the website, and I'll try to be talking about it here in class as well to see about what might be great, good times for you for your schedule. So, okay, that being said, what Sidhan wanted to know was he had some words, which were America, tour, poor, and January. So let's look at your words. And his question about America was, he said he thought it would sound strange if it was stressed on the second syllable. It is stressed on the second syllable. It is short, long, short, America. And it does have the air vowel sound in America, but I'm not really exaggerating the fact that that's a diphthong. I'm not really saying air, air with 3 sounds. It's really more of just the straight a with an sound. And so we do have length on that syllable because it's the stressed syllable, but have to be so long as though I were just saying the word air. When I say the word air, I'm holding that vowel, I think, a little bit longer. And so my first syllable is the unstressed schwa, sounds like mare. And then I have the I vowel, also unstressed lax vowel, America, and another schwa at the end. So long, short, short, America. Great. Your other words, tour and pour. Tour has an oo and an and pour has an o and an So I see a theme here with a lot of words that have the sound. And for you, I would suggest building these words from that once you have the tight back American R, it becomes easier to put in the other sounds. So for tour, I would try tour. And for pour, I would try or, pour. Some Americans will say pour as poor with the same oo vowel. Where I'm from, originally from the Midwest, now here in Seattle, there are some variants there. So you can say tour and pour. I say tour and pour. And your last word was the word January. And again, there's the air in the middle, Jan, and then I didn't leave myself enough room. In January, the U has the Y with the U. So Jan, U, air, E, with first syllable stress, January. I do have a video breaking that word January. So if you go to the channel page and you search, it's a fairly recent video. I think it came out in December or in January. And I have also a video about all of the months of the year. So if you have questions about some of the other months, I have a video for February and one where I go through all of the months. So thank you. Those were great questions. Many people probably benefited from hearing about how to pronounce those words. Susan would like to know whether there is a schwa in the word aren't. Let me think about that. Aren't. No, I think that has the the diphthong r, so an and an so kind of like aren't. And then we go right from the N to the T. So in this case, aren't. You might hear some people pronouncing it as aren't with a schwa. Would have kind of the schwa between the R and the NT, aren't. We aren't gonna go. I think that I tend to just do these sounds, aren't. I really condense it more and I don't have that extra syllabic schwa element. If you heard aren't with a kind of an unt in between the N and T, it's possible that you're hearing some people using a small schwa there. That's similar to other words that have the NT or the L to the TL when there's a N or T at the end of a word. There's a little bit of a vowel sound, which would be a schwa. I would want to watch out for is that I hear people using contractions like aren't and isn't and haven't as they're making too much sound between the N and the T. So they might say is not or haven't, like they're not really contracting it. And I don't think it happens as much with isn't and aren't, but some other contractions, sometimes I think people will say the two words that they'll just shorten and run them together, and that's not quite the same as a contraction. I do have some lessons for contractions and videos for those. And what I would say for that is I just usually recommend trying to use them, especially when we have a lot of verbs in a row, because Americans will almost always reduce and use contractions rather than stating out all of the verbs. We like to increase our fluency and speed by contracting those multiple verbs. Okay, great. Let's see, I'm a little behind on questions. Thank you for your patience, those of you who've been asking and waiting to see your answers. So Siddhant responded about the R colored vowels. So for example, like air isn't that clear in America. Yes, so depending on the context of the word, the important thing is to really clue in to having that tight American R, the sound. And then the vowel that goes into it, there will be another vowel and the like in America or in poor, where I have another vowel and the together. If you build the words up from the it tends to be, that's the most important part to get in the context of those words. We have a request for how to say the word or song, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I probably can say that quickly because that was a song that I sang when I was a kid. My family would sing songs from musicals, and that's from a musical. And yeah, you probably can find a lot of videos explaining how to say that. Just like any other longer word, if you just break it apart into the syllables and the parts of it, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, you'll be able to say it. But that isn't very practical for real speech. You see that in my classes and videos, I'm more focused on words that we use functionally for communication. That one's kind of fun just because it's, you know, a long made-up word. Yes, okay, so one further clarification for America. The I vowel in America is vowel I. That's the same vowel that's in pig and did. It's a lax front vowel. And so I have a lot of videos about this vowel sound, particularly looking at E versus I. So that's, for example, words like leave versus live. The main difference here is that the I, my tongue is slightly lower in the mouth and it's lax. So many people will have a tendency to say more of an E, a tense E vowel, and what you want to try to do is relax and make that very short and unstressed, and the I sound. So building up from other words that have the I sound, similar to schwa, which we'll be talking about later if we have time, the I is one of the sounds we have in unstressed syllables. So just like I say the schwa, the sound, in the first syllable of America, you remember that we had short syllables and longer syllable for the stress sound. So in longer words, my unstressed syllables often have either vowel schwa or vowel I, and it's almost not too important if I do one or the other, because if I said America versus America, there's not a huge difference there. I can't really say America. That it does make a difference here at the beginning, but having that really relaxed tongue and that really short, reduced vowel sound, I don't spend much time on it. It's not a clear vowel like the air, or like another stressed syllable would have a clear vowel. So in this case, trying to be short and have a relaxed tongue is going to help you the most with that I sound. Great questions. And thank you for asking. When you ask a question, if I don't get everything that you wanted to hear in it, asking a follow-up is a great idea. Susan is asking, in some dictionaries, the word isn't is represented I-Z-N-T without any schwa, but I can't pronounce a syllabic N if the previous consonant is Z. Like the word hasn't, I always add a schwa. Hasn't. I don't think that matters too much if you're having trouble going from the Z to the N. Hasn't. That's really just about the tongue position, gliding into that syllabic N, and I think it sounds fine as long as you're not spending a long time on that schwa. Then it's probably similar. Dictionaries will try to represent what we actually say, and you'll see the same word that has the same pronunciation in different ways in different dictionaries, just depending on there's an interpretation of what's sounds. Nice to see you. I see you so friendly. Happy to see you. Susan says, I can pronounce syllabic and previous consonant is a T or D, like cotton and didn't. Yeah, so just keep working on it, and I think that strategy you're using. Some questions about the word stat. For data, I think I usually say a vowel, so like data. But I think sometimes I might say data with the a vowel, data. Those two are interchanged. Both are accurate, both are correct. And those two are interchanged. Both are accurate, both are correct. And what I usually recommend when people are asking me this, because this comes up for business and technical conversations, is find out which one is easier for you to say and feels more natural for you to say. And also, what are the people around you saying? So if you're having to use that word at work, listen to the way that other people there are pronouncing it. And you can choose to do it the same as the other people around you. You'll probably hear a mix. So if one is easier for you to say accurately and you think it sounds more fluent and it matches the rest of your speech better, then you can either say data or data. I think probably the same with the status or status. That one, I definitely say status, with the a vowel, but status is also acceptable. I would say let's look up status in the dictionary, and I think there may be a British versus American version of this. So those of you who've been coming to class for a while know that I like the Oxford Learner's Dictionaries because they will show me British and American English pronunciation. And for many people, you may have learned British English in school when you were learning English, or you may come from a place where the dialect of English is more similar to British. So it can be just useful to know, okay, this way a little bit more in the British way. I'm not going to worry about changing that. Or maybe you are trying to use more American pronunciation overall. So my guess would be that British would say status and American would say status, although I think Americans use both status and status. So checking. Yes, okay. As I was guessing, here, British English pronunciation, status. Let's listen to it. Okay. It's not playing for some reason. Yes, but I can see from the vowels that it says stay, status, clear a vowel. And in American English, we have status or status, so equal representation. Personally, I say status. Again, that's probably because of where I'm from. And I don't know why I would say that and status, but there you have it. That's what okay. We have a comment, we cannot control the phoneme of geographical areas. Yes, there are regional differences in how pronunciation happens. And if you're someplace where everyone is pronouncing something a certain way and you'd like to be consistent with that, great. I do work with people who are in regions where they don't really like the regional accent. So I've worked with people in the South who would prefer to have a slightly more neutral American accent. I also really like the concept of an international English, so pronunciation in a way that's well understood regardless of who you're speaking with. And for me, usually I'm advising on the American pronunciation because I feel that that's where my expertise is, because that's my native speech. But in no way am I trying to say that you have to do that versus another way of pronouncing something. I think it's just good to be fairly consistent across each, that you're not jumping around from lots of different pronunciations, because that can be challenging for your listener to know and to follow you. And also knowing who your audience is. If you're speaking with a group of people who only have exposure to American English and who aren't very good at understanding differences, it's good to know the ways that are going to that will make you better understood for whoever your audience might be. Okay, so another question: how in American English do you say water, later, and letter? Very good. So all of these words, the theme here is that we have the flap T in the middle, and followed by the American sound. So water, later, letter. Those T sounds, I don't say it with an aspirated T. It doesn't sound like water. I'm not saying the voiceless puff of air T. It really is actually much closer to a D sound, like water. It's what's called a flap, and means that my voice is on like it is for a D, but I'm not building up pressure. I'm not saying water with a tight, released, pushed out D sound. My tongue just lifts up into that T and D position gently, quickly, and comes right back down. Water. Some people, that flap sound is used R sound in some languages. So for example, in the middle R in Indian English, rather than this being the American very, it's actually the same flap. You can try to use that in words like water, later, and letter. I have a number of videos explaining the word water and other words with flap T in the middle to help you with that. It's a very typical American pattern. Thank you, Emma, for your well wishes. I'm healthy and everything's going well here for months, taking full time, and it's important to take good care for your wishes. And heart, hear, heard, and these are I have the ear dip also is D, no final consonant. So heart, hear. So through some left and page, and every day I post a little video that I'm working on, or I'll are different, but the spelling video working on, or I'll ask you and your question America there at the end. And also the word very. If I say the word very, very same sounds, I'm just gliding between them quite a bit faster. Awesome questions today, guys. Same sounds, I'm just gliding between them quite a bit faster. Awesome questions today, guys. Okay, so we're getting a little bit towards the end of our time. We usually keep the class to be around half an hour. If you have some last minute questions, please feel free to. And I'm going to talk a little tiny bit about the schwa vowel, and then we'll talk about this topic again next week, since most of today's class was answering questions, which is great. I love doing that. For those of you who are really wanting to hear about the schwa, let me just give you a quick lesson, and then, as I said, we'll return to it next time. So the schwa sound, it's funny name, but it sounds like and one of the reasons that Americans will say or when they're using fillers, when they're thinking of what to say, is the place that my tongue is when I say that sound is the basic resting posture for American speech. And so when I say my tongue is just resting in the middle of my mouth. If this were my tongue and this were my mouth, it's just kind of resting here. It's not up, it's not down, it's not forward, it's not back. My voice comes on, and my tongue is just very relaxed. And so for American speech to go back and forth for the other positions our tongue needs to do to speak, the is kind of right in the middle of everything else we're doing. And so in a longer word, if I'm transitioning from sound to sound, oftentimes there might be an sound in between on my unstressed syllables, where I have to go quickly, where it's not important part of the word. Then you hear that I just said that's where that sound comes in. When you see it in the dictionary, it's going to either look like this or like this. This one technically is the one I think that people think of as schwa, and this may have another name. But I lump them both together because they both sound like There may be some tiny, tiny pronunciation differences. They don't really matter for what I'm going to talk about next, which is that this one is when it's held longer. So in a stressed word or in a stressed syllable, like there's only one vowel in the word, fun, some, or there's more, but it's in the stress syllable, above, then in the dictionary, it's going to look like that. It's going to sound like but you'll see how it can be spelled with O, it can be spelled with U. There's many different letters that can say the schwa sound. In the dictionary, when you see this symbol, the one that looks like an upside down E, it's an sound again, a schwa, but it's an I'm going to see the and then the other short. So really, above. I'm saying the same sound, it's just a short one and a long one. If I went really slowly, above, you can hear how the sound of the vowel doesn't change. See this also, we talked about the word America. Here's two schwas, so it would look like this in the dictionary. America. I can look for those upside down E's, and I know that those are the sound and the schwa sound. So no wonder it's the most in English. It can be in many common words. Also be in a lot of long stress syllables. Words it's in next week's class playlist, and look for my vowel schwa videos. So I have several explanatory videos about it, and then we've had past live classes about vowel schwa as well. If you're ever having a question about where to find some information, you comment on any of my videos or posts. You can message me on Facebook or email. Okay, Christine, I have this question. Sometimes I have a video where those free resources are. If you're watching this class and it's not live, you're watching it later as the rebroadcast, you can ask your questions in the comments, or I will send you links for resources that have your answers. So I appreciate everyone's feedback and comments, both during class and the comments that come in after class as well. Thanks so much for being part of class today. I see we have one last question. I'll answer that before I sign off for today, which is the difference between the short U and the short O sounds. So I don't really use the terminology short, and I think probably what you mean by short U is not the one that sounds like ooh, but the one that sounds like which is this IPA symbol. It's in words like push. But you might also mean the schwa, which is in words like fun and such. So I'm not sure. The letter U can say oo, which is this symbol, can say which is push, and it can say which is the schwa that we were just talking about. So short and long, when they use that, it's usually in regards to spelling. It's taught that way for some people, and I find it confusing because it makes people think about holding a vowel longer or not, and not really what the sound of the vowel is. So I tend to use the symbols and anchor words. And then same for short O. American English, we use O in words like no and snow. And we use, O can also say in words like some and money. And what else can O say? O says, most of the time it says in words like hot and job. And so I try to use anchor vowel phrases and symbols to help you know what vowel I'm talking about. And you were talking about schwa. So yes, in these words, the U and the O will both say the vowel schwa, the sound. Okay, and yes, I'll let you know if I ever come to India. I don't think anybody's doing too much traveling these days, but hopefully we'll be able to get back to that sometime soon in the future. And I wish all of you well. Thank you for being part of class. I hope you'll be able to make it back again next week. And please do let me know if you have questions, requests, comments. I'm happy to hear your feedback and information. Thanks again for being part of class today. It was really fun seeing everyone. I'm Christine from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound American, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Thanks, everybody. Bye, guys.